and it doesn't interfere with. You don't have to give the mic. The mic is once the video and everything is done. So
What's that?
like that is once everything is done.
Yeah, no, I know. This is for if anybody shows up with them here. The 7 of the guys. Did anybody respond to your?
Thumbs up.
No, I mean.
Like I was gonna send it to a text, but I sent them a message on Facebook instead so I can see if they've read it. Not every time they send it, if they don't have an iPhone, they can't see who's read it or not. So I sent it through Facebook instead, so I can see if they've read it or not. Alright, we are live. So I'm gonna send it to you.
Just tell me when. Good evening. Welcome you again to our second night of the mission here at St. Michael's. The theme this evening is, Who Are You? And so we're going to take a little bit of a deeper look at who we are in relationship to the world, the cosmos, and our God. And so we ask that you be prepared at the end. If you want to ask any questions on Facebook, you can just type those in and we'll be ready to respond. Or if you have any reflection that would be helpful, please don't hesitate to write it down. Thank you very much. We hope that and pray that you enjoy this.
It's easy to feel really small. There's about 7.5 billion people on this planet with you right now. It's really kind of mind-blowing. And then you think of your physical size next to this universe that you find yourself in. You know, it's easy just when you stand in front of the ocean or looking up at the mountains to feel really small next to the earth. But our earth that makes you feel so small, 1,300,000 could fit inside of our sun. That kind of blows my mind. The Milky Way galaxy is 100,000 light years across. And the Milky Way is just an itsy-bitsy galaxy. There are some galaxies that are 6 million light years across. They pointed the Hubble telescope at a seemingly dark spot in the night sky. You know what they found? 15,000 galaxies. You feel small yet? It's just overwhelming when you think of the size and magnitude of this world all around us. And it's easy to confuse small with insignificant. As if a vast amount of cosmic space has more significance than you. And what if I told you the most amazing thing in this entire massive universe is literally right under your nose? It's you. You. Who are you? You're strange, irrepeatable, one of a kind in all this universe. You stand out. In the entire history of this planet, there has never been a you. And when you're gone, to the end of the world, there will never be another you ever again. You know, it's easy to marvel at the mystery of this universe, but have you ever stopped for a minute just to be in awe of the mystery of you? And if you think about it, you're kind of a miracle. I mean, the odds of you existing at all are so astronomically small. I mean, you almost didn't exist. "66 million years ago, a 7.5-mile wide asteroid struck the Yucatan Peninsula. That asteroid struck at the exact right. The Earth's surface was just right to produce enough soot to fill the atmosphere to wipe out the dinosaurs. The most minute change makes all the difference in the world. If that asteroid hit just a few seconds later, it would have splashed in the ocean. Add a couple more seconds, that asteroid would have missed the Earth completely. That means at the moment of the Big Bang, when all this matter was sent into the void, that rock was already set in motion and destined to strike the Earth at the precise place, at the precise moment that would change everything. And when you think about it, the same is true for you. The margin of error for you to be here is probably even smaller. See, you don't even have to exist. Think of how many things throughout the course of the history of the universe had to go just right for you to be here right now. It seems almost impossible. From the very first humans, from Adam and Eve till now. My gosh, if there was a caveman 40,000 years ago that ran right instead of left to get away from that saber-toothed tiger, he might not have met your great caveman grandma. And you wouldn't be here. You are incredibly unlikely, but here you are. So from the first explosion of the universe, you were set in motion. You know, maybe a good place to start as we ponder the meaning of life would be to start by looking at you.
The human body is a remarkable thing. Your body is made up of about 37 trillion cells, all with specific functions to make up one incredible machine. Your heart beats 100,000 times per day. Your eyes can distinguish up to 7.5 million different colors. Your fingers can feel a ridge as small as 13 nanometers in size. If all the DNA in your body were uncoiled, it would stretch out to about 10 billion miles. But at the center of it is the crown jewel, your brain. In every way it's been tested, the brain is still far superior to the most powerful computers in existence. A piece of brain tissue the size of a grain of sand contains 100,000 neurons and 1 billion synapses, all communicating with each other. Brain information travels up to an impressive 268 miles per hour. That's faster than a Formula One race car. Your brain can process an image that your eyes have seen for as little as 13 milliseconds, less time than it takes for you to blink. Your brain's storage capacity is considered virtually unlimited and is capable of 10 quadrillion processes per second.
So your physical body, just your physical existence, it's absolutely amazing. Sure, there are trillions of stars in our galaxy. There are tens of trillions of living cells in your body, each in its own way, more spectacular than a lifeless star. But is there more to you than just that? A growing amount of evidence seems to suggest that there is.
When we look at the neuroanatomy of our brain is doing something for us more than just biologically. In fact, we often make the distinction between brain and mind. Whereas brain is this organ, but what is mind? What is consciousness? What does it mean to have a will?
My name is Paul Camerata, and I am the chairman of the Department of Neurosurgery at the University of Kansas Medical Center. There are a number of things that you can measure about the brain. The biochemical the physiologic, the electrical activities of the brain. During surgery, I see this a lot. I can stimulate the brain, measure a response on the finger. But is that all there is? I mean, is it just a physical reality? Can you measure your ability to imagine? Can you measure a thought? Can you measure love? Many eminent neuroscientists have studied the relationship between the mind, consciousness, and the brain. That you are physical, our body, and that you're also spiritual or other than physical. To imagine that all of this is just physical and that there's nothing beyond that, it's really hard to fathom. There was a French journalist a number of years ago. He suffered this stroke in part of his brainstem that rendered his body useless. In fact, his body could not even tell people that he was in there, and he was sent to a nursing home. He could move one eye, and by doing that, he eventually was able to let one of his caregivers know that he was in there, that he was conscious, and he wrote this entire book by moving his eye. When someone would get to the appropriate letter, he would move it, and he wrote this entire book, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. A critical portion of his brain was dead, and his body could do nothing. He was obviously still there. One of the really cool things that I get to do on a fairly regular basis is something called awake brain surgery. So we'll actually do surgery on someone who remains awake, and we're stimulating a part of the brain, and the hand moves. And the person is aware that I made the hand move, that they didn't make the hand move. It's just an electrical impulse, but the will for that person, the intellect of that person is elsewhere. When you look at the biochemical, the physiologic, the electrical activities of the brain, and then you think of the other things the brain can do, the higher cognitive functions, the thinking, the intellect, the will to do something, to go beyond yourself, it has to point to something greater.
I think we all have this sense that our self, that our identity is more than just our biology. For example, as I'm sitting here, if by some strange happenstance I woke up, a month from now from an accident and my legs were gone, would I be any less here? Am I just my biology? Am I reduced if my biology is reduced? How much of me could I lose? A finger, a hand, an arm? I'm still 100% here, aren't I? I'm not gone just because pieces of my body are gone. So I think we all have this sense that we're more than our physical makeup. We're more than our biology. We never look at a person who's without a limb and say they're not quite fully human. They're fully human. They're beyond biological.
Our experiences are simply inconsistent with the idea that you're just a lump of self-aware molecules that's happened to emerge from primal sludge. Our experiences of life, from love to friendship to what we experience when we look at a beautiful sunset and really soak that in, all of it says to us, we're more. We're more than just matter. There's this famous atheist who said 400 years ago there was a collection of molecules named Shakespeare, which produced Hamlet. What a dark worldview. But it was consistent with his atheism. But it's not consistent with your experience of life.
When I begin a new piece, it's the most thrilling and exciting thing. Just the actual beginning, when you have just that blank page, the free blanche, these endless possibilities.
When I sit down to an icon, it's a very intimate process. The excitement that I feel that wells up inside of me is not like anything else that I encounter, really.
And I think there's that thrill of that discovery. There's always a feeling of discovery, I think, in great art. It usually starts on things that are very basic. For instance, the harmony.
Depending on who I'm depicting in the icon, there's a lot of sketching and planning that goes into that process.
It may not say things literally in words, but it certainly speak the language of emotion and the language of ideals.
The human person has always been trying to share this part of themselves that they don't even necessarily have the words to describe what it is, but they still had to make that sculpture. They still had to make that painting. There was something in them that was driving them to do this, to express this.
We find that this art is not only transformative, it's really a way of showing who we are. I think we know deep down that, a lump of cells just cannot, write Hamlet, for instance. And certainly a rock or a tree certainly is not interested in listening to a symphony.
There's something in us that's drawing us to create these things. Music, paintings, sculpture, our desire to create these things truly points to something greater going on here.
The fact that our intellect can come up with things that just seem so much larger than we are. The artist somehow miraculously has been led on this path that leads them exactly to the kind of art that they create. Proof that there is a mystery involved in the creative process.
Human beings are often referred to as the rational animal. And what we mean by that term is that we share something with the animals, and that thing that we share with the animals is our bodily dimension, right? The fact that we're material. We have to feed and breathe and do all the things that animals do to maintain their bodies. But when we say that we're rational animals, it means that there is something else to us which is absolutely unique. Something which the animals don't share. That means that we think, that we can will freely, that we can love. So that rational part of us, which makes us a particular kind of being, not just an animal, is precisely what we call the soul. The soul is the spiritual part of us. There is a part of us which is free of matter, doesn't take up space. Strictly speaking, it doesn't exist in time either. The human soul is that capacity to both know and to love, which is the animating principle in the human being, without which the human body is not a living body. So much so that in the absence of a soul, a body is a corpse. That rational ability, that ability to freely will and to love, it goes on living even after the animal part of us, the material part of us, our bodily dimension, ceases to exist.
There was a Gallup poll that showed that 8 million Americans had had near-death experiences. 1 in 5 people who die and come back from the dead have memories of things that they experienced on the other side.
Well, we have records of near-death experiences going back to ancient Greece and Rome, sporadic accounts even going back farther than that. Almost every culture that has records have records of near-death experiences, from Native American, Pacific Islands, and so forth. And around the globe today, we see the same types of experiences reported in every study, every country where we look for it.
And these aren't just anecdotal stories. Thanks to modern medicine and the way we document things today, we have thousands of documented cases and a growing number of peer-reviewed clinical studies that point to experiences that are impossible unless there's more to you than just your body, that point to the existence of something within a human being that transcends the physical.
During a near-death experience, what's reported is that like almost a spiritual body, if I can call it like a soul-like body, leaves the physical body. And when it leaves, it actually has the capacity to see, the capacity to hear, the capacity to think, to reflect.
People having memories of conversations that had happened in the waiting room. That couldn't happen unless the person's soul went through the wall into the waiting room and saw it. People describing things they saw while they were dead. Like one person who described a shoe outside of a hospital ledge, high up. Nowhere near her, she would never have seen this shoe. And she described in great detail what this shoe looked like. That there was a worn toe and a lace resting under the heel. And the psychologist who talked to this person had to climb out onto the ledge and saw it. And concluded that the only way for her to see this shoe would be if she were floating outside the window and looking at it up close.
He is clearly showing the drawing of a 6-year-old girl who nearly drowned and was resuscitated in a hospital in the United States. And in the drawing you see a happy and smiling girl up here watching her own resuscitation with many correct details like the external chest compression, etc. Doctor standing here. People from 6 years don't know exactly how to resuscitate people.
And one study gets even stranger. Shows that 80% of the people who were born blind, who have near-death experiences, come back with vivid descriptions of things they had seen. They were seeing for the first time. They couldn't have even imagined what sight was, but then described things they had seen in great detail.
I mean, these are blind people, most of whom are blind from birth, right? So they've never had a visual image before. They can do comparative shape analysis and comparative color analysis. For example, you know, the color of that nurse's hair is the same as the color of the shoelace of this other nurse, or whatever the case may be.
All those experiences, which are carefully documented, point to something that I think we all kind of know on a gut level. That you, that me, that we're more than a big bag full of bones, muscle, and water. That there's something more to us than just our body. Something that goes on, even after bodily death. This notion that there's nothing outside of us. No spiritual reality to seek, or if there is, it's irrelevant to my happiness, my daily life. It's completely unique in all of human history. I mean, look, if you were just a body, then the only thing that would matter would be keeping those molecules polished and well-fed and working out. And that should be enough, right? Just achieve excellence, end it there. If you were just a body, then just achieving some level of pleasure should be enough too, right? But it's not enough. See, there's more to you. You're made for something more. That part of you that asks the question, what do I make out of this life? The part of you that experiences love and knows that it's leading you to an even greater love. That part of you is your soul. C.S. Lewis said, if we find ourselves with a desire that nothing in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is we're made for another world. If you have a desire that nothing in this world can fill, that's because there's something bigger than this world that's going to fill it. There's a reason you want real meaning, real life, real joy, real happiness. There's an immaterial part of you that won't just die when your body does. It goes on forever. So from the moment that you were conceived, you will always be. That's mind-blowing.
So where does this come from? The spiritual dimension of the human person? Well, it has to come from outside the material system in some way. And in point of fact, cannot be supplied by merely material forces. Strictly speaking, a mother and father can only contribute to us our body, the physical part of us. There's something else going on here than simply the meeting of molecules. Something fascinating, something unique. In order to be a human being, we must be immediately ensouled by God. So that soul, we say, is made in the image and likeness of God. We're capable of knowing and choosing freely. And that's what makes us specifically human. And it's something that comes directly from God as an expression of his own image, as a supremely rational and loving being. And so inside each one of us is an impress of God's own capacity to know and love in the human soul.
But you know, we're not just a soul. We're not disembodied spirits. As human beings, you have the blessing of being a body-soul composite. So you don't just have this spiritual experience of life. You get to feel the sun on your face. You get to embrace somebody. You get to use your hands to serve. You get to walk around this earth and breathe in the air. It's all part of the search. It's all part of fulfilling your purpose forever. Some people say I'm spiritual but not religious. As human beings, we have a need to express these spiritual realities bodily, because we're not just spirits. You know, when you think about that, you should be in awe of who you are. You should be in awe of the people around you. You're made in the image and likeness of God, with an ability to know, to love, to search, that sets you apart from the entire universe. You know, that's the foundation for all our moral teachings. The way you should treat others, the way you should treat yourself. It's really rooted in who you are.
All the human and civil rights we have struggled for throughout human history is dependent upon that foundation stone. My name is Louis Brown. I'm an attorney by training. I live in Washington, D.C., and defend religious freedom and all that which is the foundation for the human and civil rights that we enjoy in the United States. And so if we are to move forward with all these other human and civil rights, the right to work, to healthcare, to housing, to all of these other things, we must get those foundational rights correct. Each human person has dignity, value, regardless of what they can produce. That just because they exist, they are deserving of love and everything that comes with that love. I have rights that God has given me that no government, no law can take away. It's not what some call positivism that says my rights are whatever the majority says they are. The majority changes. 160 plus years ago, probably the majority of voting citizens in the United States said, I had zero rights, that I was property. And the fact that they said that didn't change the eternal truth that I was made in the image of God and that I am deserving of human dignity and human freedom and all of the human and civil rights that come along with that. In the same way today, there are certain human and civil rights that every human person is deserving of because of their inherent human dignity. And so you have a right to life, you have a right to religious freedom, and that the poor, the downtrodden, the marginalized, those who are materially impoverished, those who are vulnerable, they are deserving of love, and that we must meet the demands of love for them.
Stand apart from all the universe. Love put you at the center of all this. And I know you feel very small next to all this, but spiritually, you are massive next to all this. You are made in the image and likeness of Almighty God. You are mind-blowing in this entire universe. And I know it's so easy to look at the size of the universe and feel insignificant. I think God is looking down from heaven saying, you are huge next to all this. What beauty you have in this universe. You have a soul, you have an intellect and a human will. You can know, you can love, you can make choices. As big as a galaxy is, can it make a choice? No, but you can and so can I. As magnificent as Mount Everest is, it will someday erode and be a thing of the past. But your soul will last longer than that. Galaxies will fade away someday, and you'll still be around. It's easy to feel so small, but spiritually, and even physically, then we stand out from all this. And why? Why are we here? I think maybe we're here because all this was just a stage that was set so that we could enter into it, to meet the one who set this whole stage, the one who asked the question, what are you looking for?
So I hope that this particular session of the search, Who Are You, spoke loudly to you, perhaps raised some questions inside your own heart, your own mind, that will allow you to have a better sense of what your purpose in life is, what you're called to, what you're called from. The part of this particular session that focused on the mind, the brain, touched me a lot. It's not something that we think about a lot. A man who's completely unable to communicate except with one eye, and he can, through blinking, write a book. That tells us something incredible about who we are and what we're made for. So maybe some of you have some thoughts you would like to share, and if you've posted them to Facebook, then Vanessa will be able to let us know.
There's a delay, so they're just getting to the part when you start talking. Give it about a minute.
Well, if there are no observations or questions or insights that you wanted to share, perhaps in connection with your family, there may be some things that this episode has brought out that might be worth discussing with your husband or your wife, or with the children, or with mom and dad. That could help you in your own search and in your own desire to know who you are and why are you here. And if we accomplish even a little of that, then this mission will be a great success. And so we close tonight simply praying to the Blessed Mother and to our Lord Jesus Christ to continue to bless this parish, especially during this time of Lent, and to help us to continue our journey of growth in love, love that cannot be measured, the love of God for us and our love of God and our love for each other. And so we close, as we usually do, with our prayer in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless you. We'll see you next week.